I Trustworthy? The disappointing sequel to Am I Spongeworthy? Elizabeth B. Carey, Ph.D., who was supposed to feed my cats while I was away, but totally flaked, and one of them died, and she promised to buy me a new one, but instead she bought herself a fire pit. Now she won't even return my calls. Anyway. Meanwhile, in the 40s...
Did you ever feel as if you've been left out?
I wasn't asking you.
Well, that's when it really hurts. When no one understands that you'd do a good job if you had a chance, that you'd make good. You feel pretty low when you've been left out. That's the way it was with Eddie Johnson.
This loser right here.
And this is his story. A story about the importance of trustworthiness.
I mean being earnest. Sorry. Kid's got roadkill on his head. Ah, home after a long day of selling secrets to America's various enemies.
Well, hi, Eddie.
Hello, Dad.
Sup?
What are you doing?
Well, you're kind of late, and Mother was counting on you fixing this lamp.
So we're cutting you off.
So I thought I'd better do it and have it ready.
Since you failed.
Is anything wrong, son?
No.
Dad, what's a subpoena?
Come on, you can trust me with your troubles, can't you, Eddie?
Is that a joke, Dad?
Why does everybody keep talking about trusting people?
Whoa.
They elected Bob the treasurer of our club because he was trustworthy. And me?
I got locked in the
They
closet.
put me on the cleanup committee.
Fourth wall, Eddie.
I wouldn't have stolen their money.
Why don't those a-holes
What's
like
all
me?
this about being trustworthy?
Wait a minute. It can't be that bad. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me what happened.
Well, I guess it all
Well-
started when I met a nice man named Alger Hiss.
I've been in our hobby club for about 3 years now. And I wanted to be treasurer. I should have been, too. But at our meeting today...
I stole $3,000.
And this is Eddie Johnson's story. The story of a boy who had his heart set on being treasurer of his club.
A boring story.
Of course, there wasn't any real reason for Eddie to be elected. But, like most of us, he just hoped.
Objection, Your Honor. Sarcastic narrator.
He hoped someone would nominate him. But whose name do you think they thought of first?
Sarah Palin.
Bob West, one of Eddie's best friends.
He has connections to organized crime.
Jim Small was nominated too.
He's kind of creepy.
And Mary Burns.
Excellent. That ballot is confusing.
But Eddie? Well, no one even thought to mention Eddie.
Like ever, I mean.
And you can't nominate yourself, even when you want the job.
Unless you're Jay Leno.
So before Eddie knew it, the nominations were closed.
It is decreed. Eddie Johnson dies at
And when
dawn.
the voting was over, Bob had won.
Suckers.
They said he was elected because he was so trustworthy. Why should they think of Bob as trustworthy and not Eddie?
Because he's slightly more attractive?
Well, I'm not going to do any work in the cleanup committee. Why should they say he's trustworthy, Dad? What's being trustworthy got to do with being a treasurer?
Well, Eddie...
Shut up and do your
a
homework.
treasurer certainly must be trustworthy.
Dad, your hand's kind of
But being
uncomfortably
trustworthy
close to my
It's
butt
pretty
there. You
important
might
to
want
all of us
to
and
maybe
almost everything
not
we
have
do.
your hand be so close to
If
my
you think
butt.
of the things you do
It's just kind of,
every day,
uncomfortable and
I'm sure you'll see the
personal
important
space
part
issues
that
and
trustworthiness
such.
plays in helping us to get along with others.
bringing them beer, for example.
Take school, for example. We all depend on teachers to fulfill their trust to the parents and all the boys and girls
And unions.
to do a good job of teaching, just as all the boys and girls must keep trust with their teachers to prepare their lessons every day.
Sighard?
That's how trustworthiness is important at school.
Can I bail,
And
Dad?
what about trustworthiness with your friends?
I get it, Dad.
You're willing to lend something when you can trust a friend to return it. And your friends trust you to take good care of the things you borrow.
Well, not you, Eddie, but...
Being trustworthy with your friends is mighty important. And how about trustworthiness with the different groups of people you meet all around you?
Okay, I get it, Dad.
You
It was a
trust
dumb
the
question.
man in
I'm
the
sorry.
store to sell you fresh things of good quality and to deal with everyone honestly and fairly. That helps us all to live together well,
There.
doesn't it?
1 fresh kilogram.
So, trustworthiness with groups is important too.
As opposed to...
Even in the home, trustworthiness makes it easier to get along.
So you're not moving your
But
hand
I've
then.
never taken anything that I shouldn't have. Or robbed anyone.
Who wasn't asking for
I'm
it.
trustworthy.
Well, let's see. I've always noticed
That you cry
that
during
people have
SpongeBob.
to show they can be trusted with little things before they can be trusted with big things. Just like Well,
Take drug dealing,
doing
for
what
example.
You say you will.
Like fixing the lamp, for instance?
Yes, fixing a lamp, for instance.
Which you utterly failed to do.
You know, Dad, come to think of it,
I do like cupcakes better than
Bob
muffins.
is a good choice for treasurer. I can see where he has proved his trustworthiness.
Forget everything I said for the last 5 minutes.
Just remembering.
The ramblings of a
Remembering
maniac.
that Bob shows he can be trusted to do little things. You can always be sure, for example, that when he says he'll prepare a class report, he'll stick to it and do a good job, even when it might be more fun to do something else.
Like fix a lamp.
That's not a very big thing, but it has helped make Bob known for being trustworthy.
Which is a big deal with little kids.
At the charge-out desk, Bob helps out at regular times. And he always remembers to be on the job when he's supposed to.
And his farts smell like raspberries.
Being on time may seem a little thing, too. But it's another important way to show that you're trustworthy.
Sheesh, dude.
And everybody knows that Bob has had experience handling money and keeping accounts.
For the mob.
People are willing to trust someone who has proved he can do the job.
They're also willing to blame him when
Yes,
everything
all
goes to
these
hell.
little things have given Bob a reputation for always keeping whatever trust he accepts.
Bob makes the Dalai Lama look like a schmuck.
People do trust Bob. He deserved to be treasurer, all right. But how can I learn to be trustworthy, too?
Haven't you been listening?
Well, by showing that he could be trusted in little things, Bob was trusted in big things, too. Perhaps that's the way.
Nah, what else you
That's
got?
what I'm going to do. I guess being trustworthy is pretty important.
Yeah.
And I'm taking that job on the cleanup committee.
Oh, God, it's
Good
not
work.
grounded.
Yeah.
Am I trustworthy yet?
You know, I have a lot of trusts already.
No, those are garments.
Most of them little. But I never thought of them as trusts before.
I've been a total noob.
Trusts at school, at home,
Film redacted.
and I'm gonna make sure I keep them.
Right after 3 hours of Scrubs on Comedy Central.
Being trustworthy includes a lot. From now on, Eddie is going to keep trust by getting to school on time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to prepare his lessons every day. Those are good ways to be trustworthy at school, aren't they?
Well, I suppose that
And
they
think
are.
of the trust
Hey, you
you
didn't
have at
really want to
home.
know.
Eddie is going to do a good job when he says he'll help with the work around the house. And he'll make sure to take good care of all the things he's responsible for.
He'll never burn a batch of meth again.
That's the way to be trustworthy at home, isn't it?
Meh.
How about being trustworthy with friends?
What's in it for me?
Well, after this, when Eddie wants to borrow something from friends, he's going to be certain they know he'll return it. And he'll take good care of it. That's one way to be trustworthy with your friends.
Friends not available in all territories.
And what about groups? Well, Eddie has a trust with the hobby club to do his job. But sometimes cleaning up is much fun.
Hey, you're right.
Why not play darts instead?
Hey, yeah.
No one around, no one would know the difference. The cleaning could be done later.
Hey, you talked me into it.
But what was that Dad said?
Blah, blah, trustworthy
People have
beer
to
something.
show they can be trusted with little things if they want to be trusted with big ones.
Then he chuckled and said big ones a couple more times.
That's right. From now on, Eddie can be counted on to keep his trust with groups.
But what about assemblies and gatherings
That's the way
and
a good group
congregations?
keeps going. Each member must keep trust.
And pay semi-annual dues. Use this binder to keep detailed profiles on your enemies and to catalog your many payoffs and underhanded deals. And finally, use it to journal your inevitable descent into madness. It's the feds! Oh, it's Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Eddie. What do you got there?
A hastily constructed
Chart
prop.
of trustworthiness, with all the things we talked about on it. I've been finding out how important trustworthiness really is.
Turns out it's
and
not.
You know, Dad, you can find it everywhere.
That's great. Did you fill that prescription for me, son?
Things you do and...
And look, Dad, here's what
'Cause I, really
trustworthiness
need it.
means. Here's what you have
Not doing
to do.
so well.
To be
Doc
trustworthy,
says it's pretty grim.
keep your word,
Need those
play
pills.
fair, do a good job, and be on time.
Get a good lawyer.
That sounds very good, Eddie.
And you know, Dad, it really works. I've been offered the job at the library desk in our clubroom. That's the job Bob had before he became treasurer.
I've also been assigned his ex-girlfriend.
Well, that's how Eddie Johnson learned something about trustworthiness. And what about you?
He's signing copies of his new book,
Do you
Trust Me,
always
the
keep your
Eddie
trust-
Johnson story.
Remember, when you show you're trustworthy in little things, you'll be trusted with big things.
I've heard that.
And that's the way to gain a reputation for being trustworthy.
Now we need to do something about that smug self-satisfaction. Goodbye, kids. Now go fix that lamp.
Well, I'm not going to do any work in the cleanup committee.